Billionaire discovers homeless girl teaching his daughter, the shocking decision he made at 3 a.m. Under the cover of night, while the moon hung like a silent witness, a drama unfolded that would stir a city's soul. The clock struck 3, each chime echoing through the empty streets of San Francisco. The lights of a grand mansion flickered, shadows dancing against the walls, and inside, a billionaire named Richard stared at a vibrant painting, a portrait of innocence, his young daughter, Lily, giggling under a tree. What he didn't know would grip his heart like a vice. Just outside those gates, shrouded in the darkness, lived a girl named Mia. She was barely 13, wrapped in layers of tattered cloth, her eyes bright like stars but clouded with desperation. Her world was a harsh reality, an endless struggle for warmth and food. Yet, here she was, teaching Lily to see beyond her gilded cage. What could this girl possibly know about life, Richard thought, as he leaned in to eavesdrop, curious. He watched their unlikely bond blossom, a symphony of laughter and whispered secrets, the flicker of candlelight illuminating their connection. As the wind gusted, carrying an unmistakable chill, a knot tightened in Richard's chest. Mia spoke of dreams, of soaring beyond the chains that society wrapped around them. Each word consumed him. Why was she suddenly teaching his daughter? What kind of lessons could a homeless girl provide? A sudden clang shattered the stillness. Richard's heart raced. Could it be the cops? The tension thickened like fog as he peered outside. Mia turned, startled by a sound, her wide eyes mirroring fear. The world outside felt alive, almost malevolent, shadows moving around corners. "Are we safe, Mia?" Lily whispered, her voice quaking. "Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." As Richard leaned closer, torn between his worries about his daughter and the girl outside, fate whispered its haunting melody. Mia suddenly met his gaze, her fierce spirit radiating through her ragtag appearance. "You might think you know what's best for her," she said, her voice echoing the power of truth. "But have you ever asked her what she wants?" In that moment, Richard felt a shiver run down his spine. Questions sprang to life. What decision would he make? What would happen if he let this girl into their world? As the darkness pressed closer, anticipation hung in the air, charged with a promise that the night would unveil something he never saw coming. Richard's breath caught in his throat as he processed Mia's words. The girl's gaze was piercing, unwavering, like a beacon cutting through the darkness shrouding him. Who was she to challenge him? Yet, at that moment, he felt small, stripped of his billionaire armor, facing a truth he had avoided about his daughter, about the world outside his mansion walls. Lily's innocent laughter echoed in his mind. Did she really want to be here, outside, learning from someone like Mia? A million questions swirled within him, but the most pressing one clawed at his insides. Was he stifling her spirit? Mia's voice broke through his turmoil again. What does she crave, Richard? Opportunities or connections? The way she spoke his name sent jolts through his body, deepening the connection between them. His heart raced. What would people think if they found out? A wealthy man, scrutinizing a homeless girl teaching his sheltered daughter? Was he ready to face that judgment? The enormity of it pressed down on him like a weight he couldn't shake. The shadows outside deepened, swelling with cobalt dread as the air thickened with tension. A couple of low voices murmured somewhere in the distance, a vague threat that peeked into the peace of the moment. Richard's instincts yelled for him to protect his daughter, but another part whispered urgency. Maybe Mia was key to a part of Lily's life he had neglected. What are you thinking, Richard? Mia's question cut through him like a sharp knife. Richard hesitated. How could he explain the discord rising inside him? He felt torn between two worlds, one, a gilded cage of privilege, and the other, a wild, daring existence where the fight for survival was mixed with dreams. Suddenly, there was anger swelling inside him, not at Mia, but at himself for letting this situation fester. Do you really think my daughter would choose this? The anger spilled out like a wounded animal in the night, but it was masked by an unmistakable tremor of fear. Mia stood tall, defiant as the night. She's choosing it right now, and it's so much more than you think. Lily spoke up, her voice barely a whisper. Daddy, I like her. Richard's heart shattered at her sincerity. He felt a lump rising in his throat, powerful and suffocating. But she's homeless, Lily. Mia can teach me. Lily interjected, her eyes filled with such hope, it sent shock waves through him. She teaches me about imagination, about life, not just numbers. That one word hung in the air, imagination. As a billionaire, Richard had spent much of Lily's upbringing focused on security, on raising her with promise, often failing to realize he was only giving her half of what she needed. His heartbeat quickened, 1,000 thoughts colliding. Could he accept this new reality? Could he bring Mia into their home? The fear of judgment stung, but the thought of denying his daughter a chance at genuine friendship felt worse. The distant voices drew closer, and he could see movement on the street. Anxiety clenched his gut tightly as shadows deepened, signaling that something was about to escalate. He turned back, his decision teetering at the edge of the precipice. Mia, but before he could finish, the gate creaked ominously open. Before him stood three figures, silhouetted against the flickering streetlight. They loomed large, their intentions unclear but full of menace, a wave of tension crashing down upon them. Richard felt the familiar pressure of his privilege wash away, replaced entirely by dread. This was far more dangerous than he ever anticipated. What were they doing here? A soft gasp from Lily broke his trance. Daddy, who are they? He knew the answer would change everything. Suddenly, the weight of the night pressed heavier than ever, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Richard's heart raced as he braced for confrontation. What he thought would simply be a complicated decision spiraled into a life-altering moment for them all. With everything hanging in the balance, he took a deep breath and stepped forward, ready to face the unknown. What happened next would determine their fates forever. Richard squinted into the darkness, his instincts screaming for him to retreat. The figures moved closer, their silhouettes sharpening under the dim light. He could feel Lily clutching at his arm, her small fingers trembling with fear. He had to act, not just protect, but also find a way to diffuse whatever storm was brewing. What do you want? Richard called out, his voice steadier than he felt. One of the figures stepped forward, the faint glow revealing a man with a scar slicing down his cheek. We're not here to cause trouble, but we need to talk, he said, his tone laced with a casual menace that sent chills through Richard. About what? Richard retorted, forcing himself to stand tall. He recalled the countless security lessons he had pored over. The rich weren't supposed to back down. But this felt different. The man shrugged. Your little friend here, he nodded toward Mia. She's been digging around in places she shouldn't be. People don't like that. Mia stepped forward, her expression surprisingly fearless. I'm teaching Lily about hope. You wouldn't understand what that means, would you? Richard's heart raced. Was she trying to provoke them? The tension crackled like a live wire, and he felt the desperate need to protect Mia, his daughter, and his own fragile sense of security. The man laughed, but it was hollow. Hope? Look around. In this world, hope gets you hurt. So, what's it gonna be, rich guy? You keep her away from the streets or we'll take matters into our own hands. The threat was clear, and Richard's mind raced as the implications washed over him. If he turned away from Mia, would it mean abandoning Lily's connection to something pure? And if he didn't, how much danger would it put them in? He's right, Richard, Mia urged, her voice urgent, pulling him back from the brink of inaction. I know their world, but I also know how to survive it. It's the only chance. The man cut her off. Let us make this simple. We need a favor from you. A payment for her freedom. Otherwise, the next time we visit, it won't just be for a chat. Richard's stomach dropped as panic rose to swallow him whole. They wanted money. Of course they did. This wasn't about Mia at all, it was about power he had always thought he could buy. But this was different. This was his daughter's future hanging by a thread. Daddy Lily's voice was a thin whisper, drenched in confusion and fear. Mia. Richard felt the weight of the choice crushing him. You can't be with someone like them. You deserve better. What if better is exactly what they offer? Mia countered, her eyes locked onto his, brimming with defiance. I can show Lily a side of life she needs to see. Don't you see? This is her chance to really live, to breathe. Richard shook his head, the turmoil smashing through his thoughts. What was he willing to sacrifice? How far would he go to protect his daughter in a world filled with layered dangers? Just then, the scar-faced man stepped back, eyes narrowing as he took in the scene. Time's running out. Make your choice, or we will. The weight of their words hung thick in the air, suffocating, as Richard faced the alarming truth of what lay ahead. Could he really trust Mia to lead Lily into this unknown? And what if he refused? Lily squeezed his arm tighter, her innocent need for affirmation a painful reminder of how vulnerable they were. He was supposed to be her protector, her safe haven. But the harder he tried to grasp those roles, the more slippery they became. As silence blanketed the air, Richard realized they were standing on a precipice, one misstep away from chaos. Time was slipping through their fingers like sand, and he needed to decide fast. Just 1 minute, he whispered, desperation creeping into his voice as he turned back to Mia, eyes almost pleading. What do you really want? Before she could answer, a distant siren cut through the night, and all eyes turned toward the sound. The figures shifted, concern etching their features. Richard felt the threat shift, morphing like a chameleon, and the stakes had just risen higher. Answer now. Richard, the man said, voice low and urgent. Or we'll leave you with not just a choice, but a consequence. What would Richard choose? The measure of his decision loomed larger than anything he had ever faced, pressing further into his very essence. The tension around him ballooned, ready to explode. Richard's mind spun with one crisis after another. The faces of the men shifted in the flickering light, shadows distorting their features into grotesque masks that sent chills down his spine. Each second felt like an eternity, and with the siren wailing in the distance, time was no longer on their side. Lily, caught between the storm of emotions swirling around her, wore an expression of confusion mixed with fear. Daddy, she repeated, the single word carried a heartbreaking weight. It was a plea, an anchor pulling him in two opposing directions, to protect her and to be the father she needed. Mia stared at Richard, a mix of purity and defiance etched across her face. You have to decide, Richard. If we don't act now, it won't just be me they come for. It'll be Lily too. Her voice was steady, fiercely hopeful, but also harrowingly real. The men's intentions lay bare like a knife in the shadows, but what if she was right? In this twisted game, could they trust Mia's knowledge of the underworld? Richard's heart wrestled against the encroaching darkness. Images flashed through his mind, the soft laughter of Lily watching cartoons, the warmth of her tiny hand squeezing his. If he turned his back, would he lose all that innocence? Richard. The scar-faced man snapped, frustration flickering across his brow. You're wasting time. Make a deal or risk everything. The desperate urgency sent a jolt through Richard, he felt cornered. Yet, there was something primal stirring within him that refused to yield. I won't just hand over money for your silence. He shot back, his voice rising, the protective father taking over. You want her? You'll have to get through me. A low growl of laughter from the men startled him, but he refused to back down. The scar-faced man stepped forward. You think you can stand in our way, rich boy? Lily whimpered slightly, the anxiety rolling off her like a tidal wave, and it propelled Richard into a decision, vulnerable yet resolute. If my family isn't safe, I will give you what you want. But you have to promise me protection for both of them. Lily's eyes widened, not understanding the full implication, but Richard felt the bite of despair. He never wanted to be a part of this life, a life where safety was an exchange and innocence was bought with blood money. You have to promise. He pressed, his voice trembling with emotion. The scar-faced man smiled, but his eyes offered no comfort. Fine. You want a deal? You'll pay, and you'll keep your girl close. But know this, the next time we come, it'll be for a bigger slice of your wealth. You've set a price on their heads. The stakes can only go higher. Richard felt sick to his stomach. They were playing a game with rules he didn't understand. With a flick of his wrist, the man waved his crew off into the darkness as two of them exchanged brief glances, the bond of the underworld tightening around them like a noose. They moved back, blending into the night, the taste of power lingering. As Richard watched them disappear, an unsettling quiet replaced the chaos, yet it felt eerily hollow. Daddy, what just happened? Lily asked, clinging to Richard, her innocence suddenly so vulnerable. He knelt down in front of her, searching her innocent eyes. Nothing bad, sweetheart. Just a bad dream we'll wake up from. But deep down, he was trembling, realizing that this nightmare was just beginning. Mia stepped closer, her breath shaky but fierce. You did the right thing. We'll find a way to turn this around, you'll see. Yet, as they turned to leave, the distant sirens faded into an oppressive silence, and Richard couldn't shake the feeling that something darker loomed just out of sight. Did I make the right choice? He whispered to himself, unsure whether he was asking for reassurance or for mercy. The next sound shattered the stillness, a metal clank, followed by a distant cry, echoing through the alley. It reverberated against his heart, dark and foreboding, the sound of things unraveling, what was waiting for them in the shadows. The air felt thick around Richard, a cloying reminder of the danger lurking just beyond the veil of darkness. The unanswered question hung heavily, weighing down his chest like a stone. He glanced at Lily, her wide eyes shimmering with innocence, a stark contrast to the nightmare that loomed over them. Mia reached for Richard's arm, her grip firm yet shaking. We need to go. Now. Her voice held a razor's edge, slicing through his fog of confusion. The cold bite of reality pierced deep, like a shard of glass, forcing him into action. Shoving down the feelings of dread, he stood up and scanned the alley, looking for the way out. Can we get to the car? He asked, his voice strained but steady. Yes, but we have to move quickly. They hurried deeper into the shadows, anxiety crackling in the air, every sound sharp and unnerving. A distant thud echoed off the brick walls, each step seemed to summon possible threats. Richard's heart raced, pounding against his ribs like a frantic drum. He clenched his jaw, focusing on the rhythmic sound of Lily's small feet shuffling beside him, reassuring him that she was still there. He kept flashing back to the promise he made. Protect them. Whatever it takes. But what if that wasn't enough? What if this was just the beginning? Fear coiled tightly in his gut, twisting cruelly as the alley opened into a street illuminated by flickering streetlights. A rush of cars whizzed by, oblivious to the storm brewing just moments before. Daddy Lily's voice was a whisper, barely cutting through his thoughts. His head snapped towards her, concerned. What is it, sweetheart? Will we be okay? Her tiny hands squeezed his, seeking comfort. The purity of that question struck him hard. How could he give her the answer she deserved when his own world felt shattered? We'll be okay, he said, but the lie tasted bitter on his tongue. Mia took the lead, her eyes scanning their surroundings. We need to think, Richard. We can't stay in the dark. They'll come back for you, they always do. As they crept toward the car, Richard's mind roiled. What did she mean they always do? A new wave of anxiety cascaded over him like icy water. This wasn't just about him anymore, it was about Lily. Someone had their eye on her. He was supposed to protect her, but he felt like he was digging himself a deeper hole. Mia rummaged through her pockets, her expression serious. I have a contact. If we can get to him, he knows things people. But how can we trust anyone? Every deal seems to come with a price that's too high, Richard shot back, fear rising like bile in his throat. Mia's gaze hardened. What's the price of safety? You've already made a deal by negotiating with them. Do you want to risk everything for a chance at doing this on your own? Before Richard could reply, a low growl disrupted the tense air, and his breath stopped. A figure darkened the entrance to the alley behind them, a silhouette blending seamlessly with the shadows. They froze, hearts hammering, as the dread curled tighter. Richard scanned every inch of the figure, every detail felt amplified: the shape, the stance, the inevitability of danger. Suddenly, the street ahead felt like a trap. Run! Richard barked, the instinct to protect roaring through him. He grabbed Lily, pulling her close, and they sprinted towards the car, adrenaline fueling every step. But just as they reached the vehicle, a voice pierced through the noise, unmistakable and terrifying. You can't run from us, Richard. With that, all of Richard's fears manifested into a chilling reality, and the night threatened to swallow them whole. Who was coming for them, and what would they do next? Richard's breath hitched in his throat, panic gripping him like a vice. The voice, laced with a sinister familiarity, sent chills racing down his spine. He cast a frantic glance at Mia, their eyes locking for a brief second. They both knew they had to reach the car, to get Lily away from this madness. Get in! Richard shouted as he yanked open the door, shoving Lily into the back seat. He slammed the door and dashed around the front. Mia was already in, her face pale but determined. Before Richard could even settle behind the wheel, he heard heavy footsteps crunching on gravel, closing in like a storm. He fumbled with the ignition, the keys jangling like alarm bells. Come on! His heart raced wildly, each tick of the seconds dragging him closer to disaster. The engine roared to life, but just as he prepared to slam the gear into drive, a loud bang echoed behind him, followed by splintering glass. His side window shattered. He whipped around to see the silhouette step into the light, a figure cloaked in darkness, eyes like two piercing coals. Go! Go! Mia shrieked, her voice piercing through his mental fog. Richard slammed the car into gear and floored the accelerator, tires screeching against the asphalt. They sped away from the scene, heartbeats pounding an alarming rhythm in synchronization with the car's engine. But as the vehicle shot forward, he glanced in the rearview mirror. His pursuer was close on their tail, a menacing shadow, relentless and hungry. Who was that? Lily's small voice quivered from the back seat, full of fear and confusion. Just someone who wants to hurt us, Richard replied, trying to keep his tone steady. But inside, he was spiraling. Mia's expression darkened as she peered at him. Richard, you can't shield her from this. She has a right to know. If we don't face it, we might never be free. He felt like he was under attack on all sides. How am I supposed to explain anything to her while we're running for our lives? He shot back, desperation flooding his voice. The fleeting image of a normal life tugged at him, a life without this chaos, and it felt like a distant dream. They turned sharply onto a side street, weaving through the quiet neighborhood that had no idea of the terror rolling through it. The pallid streetlights flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced around them like phantoms. Where are we going? Mia asked, her eyes darting around, ever watchful. I don't know. Richard's mind raced. The contact Mia had mentioned nagged at him, maybe he was their only hope. I think we should head to the warehouse where the old docks are. Are you crazy? That's a dead end. It's risky, but it might give us a chance to lose them, Richard insisted, forcing confidence into his voice. The warehouse was desolate at night, a place he once thought would serve as a refuge in times of trouble. Now it felt like a trap. Richard tightened his grip on the steering wheel, determination mingling with fear. He wouldn't let them take Lily from him. Nothing could make that happen. As they approached the warehouse, deep shadows loomed in every corner. The air grew heavier. The atmosphere pulsed with a menacing stillness. Suddenly, a shot rang out, shattering the night air, a deafening echo that made their hearts leap in terror. "Duck!" Richard yelled instinctively. They hit the floor just as glass exploded around them, scattering into a million pieces. Richard's heart raced, adrenaline pumping through his veins. It was all or nothing. What if the only way out was deeper into the darkness? His eyes darted toward the open warehouse door, a gateway to the unknown. What awaited them inside? With every ounce of hope and fear colliding inside him, he made the decision this was their only chance. "Hold on!" Richard shouted as he barreled towards the door, wondering if escape meant walking straight into a trap. Was this the end or simply the beginning of a nightmare? The tires screamed as they barreled toward the open door of the warehouse, the heavy thudding of Richard's heart drowning out everything else. Time slowed almost to a standstill, every detail sharp and acute: the rusted metal frame, the shattered glass reflecting the harsh light. Mia's eyes were wide with fear, and Lily, God love her, was silent, clutching her stuffed bear like it was a life-preserver. Richard crashed through the doorway, the car jolting violently as they hit the cracked concrete floor. He barely had time to take stock of their surroundings before he swung the vehicle to a halt. The engine rumbled angrily, but the warehouse was eerily quiet, as if it held its breath. "Get out! Go, go!" he urged, unbuckling his seatbelt and flinging open the door. The air was stale and thick, the shadows seemed to stretch and crawl, unsettling in their stillness. He turned to see Mia already pulling Lily from the back seat, her eyes darting around. "What now?" Mia whispered urgently, her voice almost lost in the oppressive silence. "Find somewhere to hide," Richard whispered back, scanning the dark corners of the huge open space. High above, broken windows let in slivers of moonlight, illuminating the dust swirling in the air. It was a refuge, yes, but a dangerous one. Suddenly, the sound of shuffling feet echoed from outside, growing louder. Richard's gut twisted. They were coming. He motioned for Mia to take Lily toward an old storage room at the back, a door half hidden behind an array of abandoned crates. "Be quiet," he murmured to Lily, who nodded but couldn't hide the fear etched on her face. Richard's heart ached. He wanted to reassure her, to promise everything would be all right, but he couldn't lie. Not now. He watched as Mia ushered Lily into the shadows, the small figure disappearing behind the door. Just as he turned back to the front, another bang reverberated through the air. This time it was closer. "Stop!" a voice boomed, bursting through the main entrance. Richard's chest tightened. The figure stepped into the dim light, menacing and familiar. The hunter had become the hunted, and Richard could see the glee in his eyes. "Richard," the man called out, a twisted grin spreading across his face. "You thought you could escape me? You have no idea the lengths I'll go to get what I want." Richard's pulse quickened. "You stay away from us," he shouted, trying for bravery, trying to keep Lily safe. The bravado filled him with a sense of urgency. "Is it the girl you're protecting? She's nothing but a pawn in our game." The man's eyes sparkled with malice, and Richard felt bile rise in his throat. This was more than a threat, it was a challenge. In the silence that followed, the tension thickened, a palpable dread wrapping around them. Richard's mind raced. He needed a plan, and fast. The dark warehouse seemed to close in, shadows whispering threats, a threatening lullaby. Just then, a loud crash diverted their attention. From a stack of crates nearby, something fell, sending a cascade of debris spilling across the floor. Richard turned, heart racing, and in that instant, the hunter lunged forward, moving like a predator ready to strike. "Run!" Richard shouted, fear clawing at his throat that he sprinted toward the noise, instinct driving him, but the menacing figure pursued him with relentless fury. In that moment, he knew there was no time to hide. They had to confront the nightmare head-on, but what if confronting it meant losing everything? His thoughts spiraled out of control. The warehouse echoed with the sound of footsteps, but a sudden creak above interrupted the chase. Richard's eyes shot upward, fear mingling with hope. What had he missed? As he turned back to the darkened rooms, adrenaline spiking in his veins, a new plan began to formulate in his mind. But could they make it in time? What other dangers lurked in the shadows? And would they be able to find their way out alive? Richard's heart thundered in his chest as he sprinted through the debris-laden warehouse, his mind swirling with fragmented thoughts, each one darker than the last. The hunter was hot on his heels, and each step echoed through the cavernous space. The sound was deafening, each footfall a reminder of the chilling reality that they were both engaged in a deadly game of cat and mouse. Suddenly, the shadows seemed to come alive, and Richard felt an icy rush of conviction. He darted toward a stack of crates, barreling into them with a force that sent them crashing to the ground. Dust filled the air, swirling around him like a fog, blurring the edges of the horrible confrontation. He focused, steeling himself, searching for the reckless bravery that once fueled him, desperately trying to hold on to that fleeting hope. "Where are you?" The hunter sneered, his voice reverberating with malice as he rifled through the falling debris. Richard's throat tightened in fear. He could barely hear himself think over the pounding of panic in his ears and the guttural breaths of his pursuer. Richard's eyes flitted to the storage room where Mia and Lily had hidden moments earlier. "Please, let them be safe," he muttered under his breath, his heart aching for his daughter. He couldn't picture the horror she would feel if she saw him fail. No. He was not going to let that happen. He crouched low, waiting, listening. The hunter's footsteps compressed closer, each one accompanied by a sense of impending dread. Richard's mind raced for a way to trap him. Could he get the upper hand? Just then, a metallic glint caught his eye, a rusted pipe lying nearby. It was heavy and could be a weapon. Reaching out through clouds of dust, he seized it, steadying his breath as he prepared for the showdown that was rapidly approaching. "See mon, Richard. You could have run," the hunter taunted, his voice dripping with mockery echoing through the warehouse. "You could have left them behind. But here you are, playing hero. Let us see how long that lasts." Richard clenched the pipe, feeling the cold steel against his palm. The fear surged again as he thought of Mia and Lily. There was no way he could let that sadistic man harm them. Adrenaline coursing through him, he crouched tighter, waiting for the right moment. Suddenly, the warehouse plunged into silence, an eerie stillness wrapping around him like a thick blanket. Richard's heart raced, a war drum, signaling the dawn of battle. But just as quickly as the silence came, it shattered. The hunter lunged into the light, time stretched. Richard didn't think. He swung the pipe, striking the hunter's shoulder with a sickening crack. The man stumbled backward, eyes wide with shock. Richard seized his chance, racing towards the storage room. "Mia! Lily!" he shouted, desperation coating every word. He yanked the door open, but the scene inside sent chills racing down his spine. Mia and Lily were gone. Panic shot through him like a lightning bolt. "No! No, no!" he shouted, scanning the dark corners of the room. The shadows seemed to dance with malice, hiding the truth from him. Then the echoes of laughter broke through the silence, low and sinister, reverberating through the warehouse like a haunting symphony. It sent Richard careening back toward the main floor, searching desperately for the source. His heart dropped when he saw the hall door ajar, swinging slightly. They had been taken. The weight of dread pulled him deeper into despair, but beneath that despair simmered a flicker of resolve. He would not lose them. Not now. He would plunge into whatever darkness awaited him. With purpose surging in his chest, Richard sprinted toward the door, each step a declaration of defiance against the shadows. Could he rescue his family before the darkness consumed them whole? What other horrors lay beyond that door? And would he find Mia and Lily in time, or would the hunter's laugh spell their doom? Richard burst through the hall door, his breath catching in his throat. The darkness swallowed him as he stepped over the threshold. Instinctively, he strained his ears, listening for any sound, any indication that Mia and Lily were near. All he could hear was the distant echo of his own heartbeat pounding in his chest. Each beat resonated with the dreadful fears lurking in the back of his mind. "Think, Richard, think," he whispered fiercely to himself, refocusing his jumbled thoughts. He needed clarity. In the chaos of adrenaline and terror, he remembered the layout of the building. There were 2 exits, one leading into the loading dock and another into the side alley. Would the hunter take them there? A sudden rustle from a nearby corner sent icy tendrils racing down his spine. He spun around, gripping the pipe tighter, ready to defend himself. His heart threatened to break through his ribcage as shadows stretched ominously in the flickering light overhead. The laughter had faded, replaced now by a heavy silence that felt malevolent. "Richard!" A voice pierced through the quiet, a faint whisper filled with fear. His heart jolted as he recognized Mia's voice. It was so close. "Help! Daddy! Mia!" The word burst from his lips in a frantic rush. He dashed toward the sound, the cold metal of the pipe a lifeline in his hands. The laughter had returned, now closer, echoing through the corridors like a sadistic lullaby, taunting him. The labyrinthine hallways seemed to close in around him. Richard's breath quickened, and he felt the stench of fear rising in his throat. He spotted a flicker of movement at the end of the corridor, a shadow being dragged away. Fueled by an intense surge of desperation, he raced forward, each step pounding with urgency. As he turned the corner, a chaotic scene unfolded in front of him. The hunter was there, clutching Lily by the arm, a twisted smile plastered across his face. "Look who I found!" he bellowed, his eyes blazing with cruel delight. "Let her go!" Richard roared, his voice echoing off the barren walls. He raised the pipe, prepared to unleash everything he had. In that moment, time seemed to crawl. The hunter's face twisted into a mask of evil as he pulled Lily closer, brandishing a knife against her thin neck. "Make one more move, and you'll never see her again," he hissed, the blade glistening in the dim light. "No!" Panic and rage mixed in a storm inside Richard, forcing him to take a step back. "Just let her go, please." Mia's terrified eyes met his, filled with unshed tears. A wave of despair crashed over him. He refused to let fear define this moment. "If you hurt her," the words hung in the air, each syllable heavy with unyielding determination. "I promise, you won't escape." The hunter's laughter turned wicked. "You think you can scare me? Pathetic." He tightened his grip on Lily. Richard's mind raced as he tried to formulate a plan. He noticed a pile of crates nearby, a massive stack teetering precariously. If he could just create a distraction, Mia. Get to safety. He yelled suddenly, not knowing if she would hear him over the chaos, hoping to draw the hunter's focus. Amidst the hunter's smug expression, Richard charged from his hiding spot, raising the pipe high. At the last moment, he swung it down, aiming for the crates. They toppled forward with a thunderous crash. Dust erupted into the air, momentarily blinding everyone. But in that split second, confusion ensued. Lily broke free from the hunter's grasp, gasping as she fell backward. Richard's heart raced. The stakes had never been higher. He had to know he couldn't fail them, he couldn't lose anyone. "Mia, now!" he shouted, hoping she heard him. The chaos echoed around him, but urgency propelled his every action. It was time to face this monster head. In the growing silence that followed the crash, what would Richard reveal about his own resolve? And at what devastating cost? Richard's heart thundered in his chest as the dust from the fallen crates swirled like a storm, momentarily obscuring the hunter's view. That precious second became everything. He lunged, arms outstretched, his mind racing faster than his feet could carry him. "Lily!" he shouted, panic fueling his adrenaline. He saw her, wide-eyed and scared, stumbling back as the hunter cursed and swiped through the debris, desperate to regain control. Clouds of dust hung heavy in the air, and Richard felt the fragility of the moment. Everything hung in a delicate balance. "Get to Mia!" Richard yelled as he surged forward, feeling a feral urgency. Time slowed as every step echoed in the cavernous space. He had lived a life in luxury, spinning deals, and producing wealth, but in this moment, the only thing that mattered was the life of his child. "Daddy!" Lily squeaked, almost sobbing, and his heart splintered. But he couldn't lose sight of the plan. The hunter roared in outrage, wheeling around, words spilling from his mouth like lava. "You think you can just run off? You're making a mistake." As the cloud began to clear, Richard caught sight of the fearful eyes of Mia, and amid the chaos, the sight of her lit a fire within him. "Mia! Cover us!" he shouted, and without thinking, he lunged for the hunter, the iron pipe heavy in his grip. In that fractious moment, everything became noise, a clatter of shifting metal, frantic breaths, the distant wail of sirens emerging from the chaos consuming the night. The hunter was fast, but Richard's fists were wrought with determination. He brought down the pipe like a hammer, crack against bone. The hunter staggered back, his face twisting in shock. "You son of a..." But Richard didn't stop. Fear for Lily transformed into raw power, and he lunged again, pushing through pain and adrenaline. The hunter swung wildly, but Richard ducked, veering around to get between Lily and danger. "Stay back!" Richard barked, his protective instincts raging. Mia was behind him now, eyes wide and fiercely concentrated. "I got this." Richard barely registered her words, propelled by a chaotic urge to keep them safe. He turned just in time to see her grasping a piece of metal, something sharp and glinting in the shadows. "Hey! Over here!" Mia yelled, raising her weapon defiantly. The hunter's focus shifted, and in that moment of distraction, Richard acted. A surge of wrath crashed over him as he charged forward, knocking the knife from the hunter's grip. He pushed the brute to the ground. They tumbled into a flurry of pain and struggle. "Richard, watch out!" Mia cried, rushing in with unexpected ferocity, her face hard-lined with determination. She circled around, using her metal piece to keep the hunter at bay. For a brief moment, everything was chaos, fists flying, adrenaline racing, but then explodes of clarity ignited Richard's thoughts. This was about more than survival, this was about breaking the cycle of fear. "We fight together," he shouted to Mia. "Yes," she shouted back, her spirit igniting with unexpected strength. With one last powerful punch, Richard knocked the hunter's head sideways, the man crumpling to the ground, stunned. Richard fell back, gasping, catching the wild look in Lily's eyes. "Daddy!" she breathed in bewilderment. "Are we safe?" Richard turned to her, seeing the tremor of hope amidst the panic. "Yes, sweetheart. Yes, we are." Mia stepped closer, her eyes narrowed, showing the bruised determination of someone who had fought a war most would never understand. "Keep moving. We need to get out of here while we can." Feeling the weight of their circumstances lift slowly, Richard took Lily's hand, guiding her toward safety. They didn't stop running until they burst out into the cool night air, where the stars sparkled like a million promises. Once outside, the police lights flickered in the distance, practically singing for their attention. Relief flooded through him, but they couldn't linger. They were alive, but still not free. Richard turned, locking eyes with Mia, gratitude washing over him. "Thank you. You saved us." She held his gaze for a moment. "We saved each other." As sirens wailed, Richard squeezed Lily's hand tighter, feeling the warmth of her small fingers against his, grounding him in the moment. "We're done running. I promise you that, both of you." He gazed at Mia, determination burning in his core. "This is the end of fear. No more secrets." The echoes of the night trembled in the air, but around them, a new dawn awaited. The bond they forged became more than a shared struggle, transforming into hope. As they moved toward the lights, Richard felt the heaviness begin to lift. He had fought for his family, for love, and even found friendship in the unlikeliest of places. Now, the road ahead was uncertain, but together they would forge their destiny. Richard looked at Lily, her eyes shining bright. They were ready for whatever came next. And then, from the shadows, the figures dispersed, the darkness finally receding as dawn broke over San Francisco. It was a moment filled with promise. They had survived, and the future was theirs to embrace. Don't you want to be a part of more incredible stories like this? You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive tales we have in store. Smash that like button now, it really helps feed the algorithm and keeps the stories coming. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Richard, Mia, and Lily's journey. Let us discuss this epic conclusion together, and for the love of great storytelling, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let's spread the word and build our community stronger than ever. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second. Show us you're a true fan.